There was a lonely and raggedy man who had a raggedy and lonely wife, who died from a sickly heart and a miserable life. They had 8 children who did not live but did not die, who we can only ask, why, and die.
Weekends are what most of us look forward to. Not the case for Ree and Ryan Hall. They dread not having the excuse of work to keep them from another long and exhausting weekend of house hunting, of driving endlessly through country back roads in their 2006 Volvo, searching for a dream home that the young couple are now convinced is just that, a dream. Affordable housing is a fairy tale for adults, a twisted and demented Cinderella story who still believe the market, the banks, and the brokers actually care about making their lives better. A glass slipper that shattered in their hands long before they could find its home. With 2 young kids and 3 old cats, all crammed into a single-bedroom apartment, Ree and Ryan have exhausted every avenue available to them. They're about to give up all hope of ever escaping the city, when a chance encounter with an elderly neighbor in the elevator of their high-rise prompts a conversation about house hunting, and the woman offers them a genuine lead. Her sister, who lost her husband a year ago, has been talking about selling her home. The widow is thinking of moving to Atlanta, and the house means more to her than getting the most value she can out of it. She really wants to sell to the right family. Would they be interested? That weekend, they packed their 2 children, 6-year-old Sonny and 8-year-old Raffy, into the car and take another hours-long drive out of the city. When they arrive at the house, their hearts sink. The house is huge and perfect in every way imaginable. They already know there's no way they can afford it. Another weekend wasted, another glass slipper shattered. All they have to look forward to now is the miserable drive back to their cramped apartment with 2 tired, cranky kids moaning the whole way. But every now and then, like Cinderella, fairy tales do come true. When they meet the widow, Sadie, the woman immediately embraces Ree and Ryan, and especially the children. She tells them they remind her so much of her own kids when they were younger, especially the 8-year-old daughter she lost so many decades ago. The house needs that love again, and the widow offers her home to them at a price so below market value that it's too good to be true. And she gives Sonny a handmade ragamuffin doll that the little girl hugs as her own. After all those endless wasted weekends and all the racked up miles on the Volvo driving up and down the East Coast without a hope of ever escaping city life, the Hall family finally has a place they can call home. And now, with a bow to Rosemary's Baby, the Sentinel, and the Wicker Man, the additional bricks we've laid into the Raggedy Man backstory is built on the shocking premise that the entire township is part of an elaborate trap to lure and dupe new families to move into the town to sacrifice 8 children every 8 years to the Raggedy Man to save and preserve their own families. With the promise of unbelievable deals on homes, an incredible school system, low taxes, huge playgrounds, and a multiplex only showing all G-rated family films on each of the 8 screens, the town is a magnet to attract the low-income families that have been selected and recruited by the town's dark network. What seals the deal for Ree and Ryan is the old-fashioned sponsored country fair that celebrates the heyday of the town back when rides were a nickel and you could feed a family of 4 on a single dollar. The fair attracts all the neighboring townships so that the unsuspecting families and the unsuspecting audience believe the clutch of kids and parents packing the fairgrounds are all local and all part of the town's magical wonderland of endless riches. Even when Ree and Ryan have trouble getting a mortgage approved, it's the local bank that the widow Sadie recommends that underwrites the loan for them. Now, with the prospect of their new lives in front of them, Ree and Ryan move what little furniture they had in their tiny New York apartment and realize it can barely fill a single room of their sprawling new home. On a tight budget, they find incredible buys in the local consignment shop in town. The furniture, bed frames, chairs, mirrors, dining tables are all practically brand new, and the prices are almost as if they're giving the stuff away for free. The town is a gift that keeps giving and giving. But Ree and Ryan soon realize the town hides many secrets that betray its tranquility. The implications become more haunting and sinister as they begin to hear sounds, disembodied voices crying out in the night. They've seen the unsettling way things seem to move around on their own, sinewy shadows slithering across their backyard and into the trees. But the most chilling thing about their new home is the cemetery that the widow neglected to tell them about. deep in the woods in the dark hills behind their home. The graves are tiny, only big enough for dolls. When Ree looks for playdates for the kids, however, she notices there are none their age in attendance in the school or in the town. It's only after they settle in that Ree discovers all the families and kids they saw at the town fair were from other nearby towns. In fact, there are no local kids at all who live there. The playgrounds are empty, and the elementary school has only a handful of children enrolled there. Even the movie theater that was showing only G-rated family fare has now booked R-rated movies, along with a XXX-rated porn feature billed for adults only. It's only when their kindly next-door neighbors, Seth and Sarah, an elderly brother and sister who grew up in the town and have been looking after Sunny and Raph while Ree and Ryan work, that they first hear of the local legend of the Raggedy Man. Lurking at the margins of this idyllic suburban existence is the shadowy, spectral figure of a faceless phantom who hides beneath a ragged shawl, a living patchwork quilt of children's clothes he's collected for as long as his story's been told. In the 1940s, a textile worker, the father of 8 children, was working the tail of a double shift to support the war effort and make ends meet to feed his family. A widower, he had already lost his wife years before, and the eldest child cared for her younger siblings while the man worked the automated cutting machines at the factory. Exhausted from laboring at the mill, he sits to rest and ends up falling into a dead sleep. The eldest daughter gathers her siblings to go find him. The last anyone ever sees of the children is on a hillside at dusk, heading into the dark woods leading to the mill to find their father, and they're never seen again. To console his loss, the grief-stricken man would make patchwork dolls from the clothes his children left behind, and on the anniversary of their disappearance, would bury the handmade dolls in the spot the children were last alive. But years later, after there were no more tattered clothes left to make more dolls, the man started to roam the hill town hidden under his patchwork cloak of 10,000 stitches to steal other children's clothes, and that's when the children in town began to disappear, and the legend of the Raggedy Man was born. The devastating loss of his family continued to consume the man even beyond his death, his anguish growing into something sinister, something living, breathing, alive. So the Raggedy Man continues his dark vigil to this day, and every 8 years, 8 children disappear in a single night, taken, snatched from their beds, gone, as if they never existed at all. As the threat of Raggedy Man begins insinuating himself into the family's life in ever more unsettling displays, the full scope of the Raggedy Man's intent becomes menacingly clear and shatters the family's domestic bliss when 8-year-old Raffi is abducted. As their search grows more desperate, Ree and Ryan's once stable home devolves into a spectacularly violent house of horrors. With no hope left except to believe Raggedy Man truly does exist, Ree and Ryan discover the abandoned textile mill that Raggedy haunts. There, they find his collection of child-scale patchwork dolls. But only when the dolls begin to move do they discover the Raggedy Man's heart-stopping secret. The dolls are revealed to be the boneless bodies of the abducted children. Buttons sewn onto their eyelids to blind them, their mouths sewn shut to silence them. Horrifically, they're still alive, organs intact, their bodies a boneless sack of stitched skin from the neck down, floppy human rag dolls stuffed with sawdust and horsehair. And adding to the horror, Raggedy Man has the power to control his collection. They slither, silent and snake-like, with astonishing speed and agility, doing Raggedy Man's dark bidding like some Faustian Fagin. But Ree and Ryan's fate are in the hands of the elders, who must keep the town and its secrets buried deep, is no less horrific, building in whispers and ending in screams. Soon, relatives and friends come looking for the missing family, who they have not heard from for weeks on end. When they do, they discover the house is stripped clean, barren, all the family's personal possessions gone. Later, when those same relatives and friends go into town searching for answers, and the local bank informs them the house was foreclosed on because of non-payment, they can only assume the family was in financial straits. Too ashamed to share their money problems with those closest to them, they moved on. Walking resolutely through the town, those relatives and friends who came with the hope of finding answers unknowingly pass the local consignment shop. And there, behind the window of the store, we see all the same furniture Ree and Ryan bought there, looking as new as the day they purchased it for their new dream home. And in a bin heaped with discarded toys is the little girl's doll, Sunny's ragamuffin doll. We see a fragile liver-spotted hand pick the doll off the pile, followed by a match cut of the doll being dropped into a tiny grave. We see Ree and Ryan's neighbors, Seth and Sarah, the elderly brother and sister, cover the doll and Sadie, the widow whose house the Hall family moved into, place a tiny marker over the grave. Standing there in the doll cemetery, along with them, are 5 other old men and women, familiar faces we've seen in and around town, including the elderly woman we first encountered in the elevator in Ree and Ryan's New York apartment building, the one who first suggested they take a drive into the hillsides of Pennsylvania to look at a house her sister was considering selling. However, it isn't until we see them all together we notice a striking resemblance, a family resemblance. The 8 old men and women turn and start to trek back into the woods, following the same dark path they walked over 80 years ago when they disappeared over that hillside without a trace. The same path they took leading to the mill, looking for the father they never found. The final scene opens 8 years later. It's the first day of fall and the town fair is in full swing. Tons of kids, merry-go-rounds, food, rides, and families galore, there to enjoy the day. The out-of-town families who attend for the day are easiest to spot. They're the ones with the biggest smiles, who can't believe their good fortune and the promise of a new house, a new life. A place where the kids can grow up safe and protected from their urban paranoia and the dangers of the outside world. A place they can call home.